We have been too often disappointed by the optimism of the American leaders, both in Vietnam and Washington, to have faith any longer in the silver linings they find in the darkest clouds. They may be right that Hanoi's winter-spring offensive has been forced by the communist realization that they could not win the longer war of attrition, and that the communists hope that any success in the offensive will improve their position for eventual negotiations. It would improve their position, and it would also require our realization that we should have had all along, that any negotiations must be that, negotiations, not the dictation of peace terms. For it seems now more certain than ever that the bloody experience of Vietnam is to end in a stalemate.
Serving almost 19 years as the anchor of the CBS Evening News, Walter Cronkite brought important moments of history to homes across America, making his historic assessment of the war in Vietnam, announcing the assassination of President Kennedy, and being left speechless when man landed on the moon. Viewers turned to Cronkite to tell them that's the way it is. The new biography, Cronkite, chronicles his life from paperboy in Missouri to the most trusted man in America. Joining us now to talk about his book, the author and CBS News consultant and historian, Douglas Brinkley. Doug, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I know you spent countless hours looking through tape and doing research for this book. Did you come across anything that surprised you about Walter Cronkite?
Oh, many things. All of his papers have been donated to the University of Texas in Austin, so I went through all this correspondence. And for example, he would write his wife, Betsy, a letter from, D-Day and Battle of the Bulge, so I had all of this great correspondence. But it was really the role, I think that stands out, the role CBS played on such unexpected issues in the 60s and 70s is the environmental movement. Cronkite was obsessed with cleaning up, the Great Lakes and America's rivers, and he'd run Can We Save the Planet on the CBS Evening News, and then sent film crews to cover the first Earth Day, which led to the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency. So he became one of the voices of the environmental movement, and it's been an unsung part of his legacy.
One of the things that we all know about great journalists is this ingrained sense of curiosity, and you want to do research and you want to ask tough questions. Is that what made Cronkite such a revered reporter and later anchor?
Absolutely. Endless curiosity about everybody. He'd ask everybody about their background, where they were from. There was nobody Walter Cronkite wouldn't talk to. And he was also very curious about machines. And that's allowed him to love the rockets of the space era, and he loved interviewing scientists. A lot of people think politics is the end-all, the news buzz of an election. Walter did that, but he also would talk to surgeons and people studying DNA or an oceanographer, and he brought that into the nightly news mix. We miss that, I think, some now in mainstream media.
And when you think about Cronkite, you think about some of the reports on the war of Vietnam and also this very historic moment when he announced the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office shortly and become the 36th President of the United States.
Almost looking at the clock as if he knew he was documenting history, and there's some debate whether he actually cried or whether he was misty-eyed, showing emotion but not too much emotion. When you see moments like that, you think that his ascension to the top is almost inevitable. But he had a rocky start in his career.
Oh, very much so. I mean, we started off with the United Press and was a wire service guy, and Edward R. Murrow offered him a job for CBS Radio, and he did a handshake agreement, yes, and then he reneged on it. And so there was a feud I write about between Cronkite and Murrow. But when you watch a clip like that, it tells you you got to be in the game like you are here tonight, because you never know when a big event's going to happen. And Cronkite, that day Kennedy was killed, was eating pineapple and cottage cheese at his desk. He heard a hum of the wire machine win and got it ripped off, and it's like, oh my gosh, there was a shooting in Dallas, and the moment started, and he was in the newsroom to do it. He went out to lunch. He wasn't away for the weekend. When you're doing breaking news, it's important to be near those wire machines back in that era.
It's what often will make you or break you,
Absolutely.
as we know in the business. In 1972, Cronkite was given that title, the most trusted man in America. What was it that earned him that title?
nobody trusted anybody in the 1960s. Particularly, young people, the baby boomers didn't trust their parents. People learned to realize that Lyndon Johnson and Robert McNamara and others, Westmoreland, were lying about things or covering up things in Vietnam. Nixon got busted with lies at a regular basis. So there's a lot of distrust and cynicism, and Cronkite was the last man standing. He was known as a truthful figure with integrity, and even if something scandalous came out about him partying or drinking, people humanized him. You have to get into, when you go into people's living rooms, people have to like you, and as Ted Turner told me, Cronkite's the only guy in television history nobody ever got sick of.
Was it longevity that gave him that title, that gave him that trust and that sense of belonging when you watched him on TV?
Professionalism, he's a pro. And longevity, and also he never worried about being first, of breaking the news. He wanted it right. It was good to be first, but so he would double or triple source things. It's astounding how few retractions or corrections a Cronkite broadcast ever had. And he used to say, "It's my face hanging out there, guys. Triple. I don't care if you say he was born in Cleveland, Ohio, or Topeka, Kansas, triple check it before I go telling a national audience it." So this lack of mistakes that Cronkite made on the air is really amazing.
Cronkite anchored his final evening newscast. It was March 6, 1981. Take a look.
Last broadcast as the anchorman of the CBS Evening News. For me, it's a moment for which I long have planned, but which nevertheless comes with some sadness. For almost 2 decades, after all, we've been meeting like this in the evenings, and I'll miss that. But those who have made anything of this departure, I'm afraid, have made too much. This is but a transition, a passing of the baton. A great broadcaster and gentleman, Doug Edwards, preceded me in this job, and another, Dan Rather, will follow. And anyway, the person who sits here is but the most conspicuous member of a superb team of journalists, writers, reporters, editors, producers, and none of that will change. Furthermore, I'm not even going away. I'll be back from time to time with special news reports and documentaries, and beginning in June, every week with our science program, Universe. Old anchormen, you see, don't fade away. They just keep coming back for more. And that's the way it is. Friday, March 6th, 1981. I'll be away on assignment, and Dan Rather will be sitting in here for the next few years. Good night.
And he later said he deeply regretted that. Why?
He loved being in the game, and he dreamed about sailing, which he did, but after a couple months at sea, he recognized that he wanted to back in his anchor chair, and so he was kind of disgruntled about that, and Dan Rather, who succeeded him in Cronkite, ended up not getting along. But what's important about the clip was that the whole nation watched as if it was a historic event. Even his competitors at ABC and NBC interrupted their nightly news to run Cronkite's farewell. He left at 64, completely on top of his game, highest ratings you can imagine. So the good news for him was he left like a pro without hanging on too long.
And in the last 20 seconds that we have here, do you think we will see another Walter Cronkite?
No, because there'll never be that much influence. The big three, he only had ABC, CBS, and NBC, and it was early pioneering of television, and now the internet and cable TV has given us so many news sources, for better and for worse, but the Cronkite era ended with Walter Cronkite.
CBS News consultant and historian Douglas Brinkley joining us this morning. Doug, thank you so much.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
And of course, his new biography is called Cronkite. It is on sale right now.